Hey, Hillside Solutions here to talk about the work that we did with the Switch Beer and Food Hall and Blackstone, which is a Greenslate project. What we did with them to help them meet their sustainability goal. And if you're a facility manager, or you operate a business, or you're setting up a new space, and you want to go above and beyond with how you handle your solid waste, this is a case study on like the things that you can do, using an example of the Switch and some other examples on Corporate, in tandem with our services. Okay, we're more than just a waste hauler. We can help out in a myriad of ways, and by following these tips that the Switch incorporated, you can save yourself headaches, money, and meet your sustainability goals. Okay, what I love about the Switch is that in so many ways they did it right. There's a lot of programs that we have, a lot of ways that we can partner with people. And they were just kind of like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's do that. We're ready for this. Let's be a leader in that. So it's exciting stuff. So the specs of it, it's Slate Development, the folks that are responsible for the renovation of Blackstone neighborhood. This was a new building. There's 5 tenants inside the Switch, all sort of autonomous, independently owned, but working collaboratively together, local chef, and local concepts. Okay. Beautiful space. Alley Point Architecture designed it. We love working with them. They're awesome people. Got to go check it out. Okay. So the Switch, their sustainability goals, they want to go zero waste, which means 90% or more of the waste that they produce is reduced, reused, recycled. And the other goal they had was to get a certification from the Green Restaurant Association. So the Green Restaurant Association is like there's a lot of different ways you can get certified in the food service way for like acknowledging your green efforts, but these are the original folks that do anything like this. And they kind of set the standard. So they have all these criteria and ways that they grade food establishments, determine how green they are, and then, sort of present that here's verified ways that they're doing this, rather than ambiguous statements like you'll often see, like, we use organic, locally sourced ingredients whenever possible. What does that mean? Just like the tomato out of 100 ingredients, or like 99 ingredients out of 100, So this way it brings some certainty to the table. So in fact, if you go to the Green Restaurant Association website, you can look up the Switch. You'll see them listed among one of their certified facilities. There's only 2 in Nebraska. They're certified, the Switch and the Grey Plume, which got their certification years ago. Grey Plume is like heralded as an example of like they go to the max on everything. When they first opened up, they were billed as the greenest restaurant in America. They got 4 stars. Okay, the Switch just got 3 stars. Okay, that's pretty significant. And there's a variety of ways that they achieve that. You can see energy is number 1. And so these are things in the built environment that decisions they made early on in the process that set them up for success in this. But the next category that contributed to that 3-star certification is their waste. And then that also ties into the disposables. You got 14 and 57 for the waste. Okay. Here's how we helped do that. So one of the things that we help out with that we find that most people overlook. Okay, so here's the thing. If you do this right, you're going to be ahead of a whole lot of people and save yourself a lot of headaches. So design consultation. So what I mean by that is, like, when you're in the solid waste industry, like, we're usually the people to get the phone call from a facility last, right? So like they're setting up all their vendors and getting all their people set up and their internet and their utilities and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, we open 2 weeks or a month, like call a waste vendor and hire them, have them bring down some containers. That's usually what happens. Okay. And for the most people, maybe that's okay. If all they want to do is simple landfilling and maybe a basic recycling program, cool. If you want to do anything above and beyond that, problems. Here's why. So most architects, engineers, they're designing spaces for what I call the landfill model. Okay. So what that means is, like, how do we handle solid waste? We need to build a trash enclosure outside, and it's going to have room for one dumpster or maybe two for recycling. But the thing is that after 2018 in Omaha, Nebraska, if you're going to have a healthy, legitimate recycling program using dumpsters, you're going to need two dumpsters now instead of one. So already, boom, we have an issue. But if a facility wants to add on composting or glass recycling, you also need additional space for those containers in here. So this is often something that I see sent to me, and they say, "Hey, how can you work with this space?" And this isn't a workable space. And in fact, in this case, there's a facility being built right now, and they want to go pretty substantial with their green program. They want to have zero waste infrastructure, so the full gamut of services that we have, but they only have room for a small couple containers. I was able to talk them into expanding their trash enclosure to accommodate what they want to do, but because the build out process was happening actively, after the change order went through, it was $25,000 extra to make the change. Okay, had we been a part of the process early on before those decisions were made, we could have saved them some money. So that's one example. Another is just like really basic stuff. Even if you don't care about recycling or anything, does the trash truck, like, can it turn at an angle and hit that trash enclosure straight on so its arms can hit in these side pockets and lift it up? Or is it, it's too tight of a turn because of the way the parking lot is configured or whatever, and now all of a sudden you're looking at potential property damage to trucks, having difficulty accessing, or you have to get smaller dumpsters, which, a 4 cubic yard dumpster is the largest you can go on wheels. So if you're a facility that needs an 8 cubic yard dumpster, now instead of having a truck come once a week to pick it up, you need to have the truck come twice a week to pick that up for life. And so the cost of that's going to be more in the long run than if you just would spend more money at the beginning having a bigger enclosure. So there's simple things like that. Also, in-house, if you're just doing some, buying some plastic trash cans and putting them in the corner, that's fine, that's malleable. But if you're doing something with the built environment where you're having like fancy marble top, trash slots enclosures, and maybe you just do two, one for landfill, one for recycling. But then later on, you're like, oh, we want to add this, or the recycling market changes and you need to separate that material in different ways. You're kind of stuck to what decision you made a long time ago. So you need to design these spaces with flexibility, because the waste industry and how we handle those streams change. Okay, so with the case of Blackstone, and they had a building with these trash chutes already made. Okay, there's apartments that live above the switch, and so this is something that they wanted to utilize for the apartments. But because we got brought in early enough in the conversation, they were malleable enough that we could say, well, how are we going to utilize them exactly? So one trash chute is for landfill for the apartment tenants above and for this facility to use, but they closed down the other one for the apartments above and kept one for composting for the switch to use. Here's if you go down in the basement, there's a parking garage for the switch. They have two trash rooms, and we were able to say, hey, can we use those for these purposes? And we figured out, one's going to house this stuff, another one's going to house this stuff. And we made sure that we could get it out of that garage into the alley so the trucks could service it and still have room for everything they need to do. Along with that built environment, the bin placement, we talked about that, the stuff that you use in-house to collect that material. We have a cardinal rule in the industry is, where one bin is, all bins are. And that is to say that if you have, sometimes we see people put recycling containers, by themselves, like by the printer, right? Where we're going to collect paper for recycling. But the average Joe just sees a trash can. So he may throw anything in there. But when you line up trash cans together in a row, then it makes people stop and think, and especially if they're labeled with certain colors and have signage above them, that can help increase participation and cut down on contamination. So front of house for the switch, it was easier for them to figure this out because they made, and this is really significant, they made the commitment that all the single-use throwaway items that they give their customers are compostable. Okay, that's the first food establishment to go that far with it. So when I go in there and eat and I order food, everything that I'm given is either going to be something that's that's reusable, like a rewashable plate or silverware. But for the single-use items, maybe a cup or straw or the food or the napkin, all that's compostable. Okay, so when they go and throw things away, it's a really easy decision. You have one slot for composting, and you have one slot for the reusable, plates and things like that. But along with that commitment to use compostable single-use materials, they also have to figure out where are we getting these single-use materials from. So we help them navigate that conversation. We attended a Cisco meeting with them where their reps laid out all the different products that they have, and we looked at it to make sure that it's actually compostable at our composting facility, because this area is really murky. Like if you were to go online and be like, I want to get green-friendly silverware, you could find stuff that says like eco this or green-friendly that or whatever, but it gets a little weird because there's no standardization around how people designate or talk about that. So we find people that say, hey, here's this compostable fork. And then I read the liner notes and it's like, well, it's made of 90% corn, but 10% plastic. And at that point, you can't recycle it and you can't compost it. So we can help out with that kind of stuff too. And in their case, one of the issues they ran up against is that for whatever reason, at this point, you can't brand your own compostable cup. So we helped find a compostable sticker that they could put their logo on and then attach that to the cup, as you see in this photo here. Here's an example of a proper lineup of bins. Okay, remember that where one bin is, all bins are. So you can see that, this is just using Slim Jims as an example. The sort of nationally agreed upon color scheme that not a lot of people are utilizing yet. So you can be ahead of the pack by doing this. Green is for composting, blue is for the recycling streams, and black is for landfill. So sorry, City of Omaha, choosing green as the top for your new recycling bins. That's wrong. And it causes confusion in the long haul. And it cuts down on participation and increases contamination. So this is something that we all need to conform to. Just like everybody understands what a stop sign looks like, no matter where they are in the country, we all need to have standardization around these practices to help people so they don't have to think so much when they try to do the right thing. It just becomes more automatic, just like throwing away something in the landfill is so automatic now. So training. Okay, so we give you all these awesome services, but now you have to use them, and you got to get your employees to use them, and you got to get the customers to use them. And that can be a big thing. Well, we hold the hand through that, people's hands through that process. Okay, so one thing that we do is like in-person training. Gotta mute my phone here. Okay, so we did a couple with their managers and stakeholders before they opened. We did an online thing, so we came up with if you go to hillside.solutions/the-switch, this is for managers, owners, employees that work there. This is like their resource guide and like what is this composting recycling thing that we have? How does it work? Where do I get energy bags? Where do I get compostable bags? Like what? Like blah blah blah. So there's a training video. So imagine you're a manager, you just hired someone new, okay, and you got to go through a myriad of training things. This is sort of like helps them outsource the recycling composting portion, because now they can just watch this training video. Hey, new employee, watch this training video. Okay, now take this little Google quiz we put together, and it's got a bunch of questions that summarize what they saw. Okay, turn that into their manager. Manager's like, great. Okay, you pass. Okay, their general manager has some do's and don'ts in here. We can update. They have a link to download the posters that we helped design with them. There's some marketing talking points. So, 5 different tenants within the switch. They have their own Instagram and Twitter accounts and Facebooks. They want to talk about the sustainability stuff they're doing, but maybe they don't understand exactly what it is. Like, that's okay. Copy and paste these talking points and add them to your IG post, and some other things like that. Okay, so yeah, with training, the one thing you've seen in this video is the signage. So gone are the days where you can just slap a recycling logo on something and assume people are going to know what to do. What we found is that people don't know what to do, and that's because no one teaches us how to recycle the right way. So you basically have to design these programs with the premise, not that people understand recycling, but that people don't understand it. And if you design your programs like this, then you create safety nets along the way to catch them and to help deter non-participation and contamination. So correct colors, we talked about, and you got to put signs on everything. So here's an example. Like we have sort of a sign that we've designed this particular to the Omaha market in tandem with our services. And then the switch, ran over it with their branding using their preferred font, adding in their logo, and then us strategically choosing images to place on those posters that correspond with the types of material being produced in that facility. So this is for example, for back of house, because remember, for front of house, they simplified it for the customer by taking the steps ahead of time to determine that they're only going to be handing out reusable things that are going to get washed or compostable single-use things, okay? But for back of house, it's a whole different world for the employees, who have a lot of different ways to recycle and compost. A takeout plan. So the way this breaks down is 2018, plastic straws got beat up in the media narrative. And as a result, a lot of food establishments made the right decision, to not only get rid of plastic straws and get paper straws, but to get compostable, single-use materials altogether. So a lot of restaurants who eat it now, instead of giving you the old school styrofoam, they give you some beautiful, sturdy-looking compostable takeout box or a cup that looks like it's plastic but it's made out of corn resin or something like that. Okay, but that's where the story ends for most. What they don't know or don't tell you is that if those compostable materials don't come to an industrial composting facility like we have, and we have the only one in the greater Omaha area, it's not living out its eco purpose. So instead, it's probably going to go into recycling because people see there's something green about this, so I should recycle this, right? Well, recycling facilities can't handle that material. It costs them money to pull it out of the line. And if it goes to a landfill, it's going to hang out for a couple decades, putting out methane gas. Whereas we can turn it back into soil, and that's a good thing, okay? So there is a value in creating sort of like a customer, being seen as responsible in this space, because you can teach the customer on proper disposal. And so we came up with a flyer that, as I understand it, should be soon handed out to customers when they do takeout. So imagine you got your takeout bag, pulling out your stuff, and you see this flyer right here that we designed with the marketing team at the Switch. And it educates you on, hey, the stuff you have here is compostable. Don't send this to the landfill. Don't send this to recycling. You can't compost it in your backyard because that plastic, the cup that looks like it's plastic that's actually corn resin won't break down in your backyard pile. But you can send it to Hillside Solutions. Here's how. Here's a residential program. There's a code that they can use to get the first month free that's specific to the Switch. And then, in fact, we set up this program is called Compost Club. We set up a Compost Club drop-off site at the Switch. Okay, so then when that customer comes back, they can drop off their compostable materials or take out whatever in these containers as a part of a Compost Club member, and then they can come back in and get more takeout. And so you produce this eco-commerce loop where they can come again and get their materials, dispose of them, get more materials, dispose of them. Okay. Audits. So we can do waste audits to determine are the right materials going to the right places. And so far with the Switch, we've done a materials audit where we, hey, you want to get everything compostable, single-use stuff. Let's go through one by one, everybody, and make sure that the materials you're giving to the customers are compostable. So that's something that we did because that can be a confusing space for vendors to get into. So we helped, let them know, hey, this actually isn't compostable. For example, wax paper, it's called wax, but a lot of wax paper doesn't actually, it uses poly plastic instead of beeswax, like the old school stuff used to. But there's wax paper out there that is compostable. You just need to know what to look for. And then the eco marketing. So, when you're using compostable takeout ware, when you're paying for waste services outside of landfilling, you're always going to be paying more money for this, okay? But it doesn't mean that it has to be a tax. You can turn this into a value to help bring on new customers. A lot of market research shows that millennials and Gen Z want to spend their money with eco-conscious companies and will spend more money with ones that are, okay? So your sustainable return on investment. The Switch did it right because they incorporated those things. They didn't just do them, but they also incorporated that into how they talk about their business. So on the homepage of their website, theswitchblackstone.com, you can scroll down and see, boom, here's their bit about their commitment to sustainability through recycling and composting. So it's like, bam, it's a feature, okay? One of the posts they did on social media that I love is like this photo right here. Here are different types of foods you can get from different types of vendors. Oh, by the way, everything you see here is compostable using, hillside services, and or, if you dine in with us, this will be composted and turned into soil. So along with that is this thing we call the 360 economy, where there's over 100 different businesses and entities that we compost with now, but not a lot of them are actually then taking the soil that they helped create back into their facility, incorporating into their potted plants, their landscaping, their garden, whatever, and telling that story. They're like, hey, this soil in this plant was comprised of materials sourced from here that was composted. So that's something that they've incorporated a bit into their marketing too. Like, hey, this is something that we do. So the point of this is like, if you're a customer and you want to patronize this place, like here are some cool things maybe you didn't know, and why you should love this venue all that more. And if you're a manager, owner, or facility person, these are all different ways that we can partner together to help you meet your sustainability goals and take things above and beyond. So we'd love to help. Hit us up if you have questions, and thanks for watching.